Welcome to Rethink Community Podcast, brought to you by Think Tank, Inc. I'm your host, John White. For the last 10 years, Think Tank has been helping people and organizations step into the stories of those who face poverty every day. We believe that stories have the power to break through our opinions and positions and bring us together. On this podcast, we bring you real stories from real people who have grappled with poverty, faced obstacles, blazed new trails, and forged unlikely relationships. When a young 8th grade girl in Dayton and a mom from the suburbs first met as part of a college promise program, they had no idea the kind of relationship that would form and how it would impact both of them. In today's episodes, Lori and ShayLynn share their story of mentoring and what it taught both of them about the power of relationships. Well, it's another time for Think Tank podcast, and I have two special guests with me. Lori Sims-Parks. Lori is part of the Think Tank team. She has been part of the Think Tank team since 2017. She's in our customer solutions shop, and also she with a long list of other leadership positions she has held across our community, as well as currently a caring school board member and a longtime school board member, and so is a very accomplished person. Thank you, Lori, for being here. And also ShayLynn Hespeth. ShayLynn teaches at Dayton Early College Academy, a charter school in the Dayton Public Schools, 8th grade, I believe. Isn't that right, ShayLynn?
That's true.
And she graduated with an education degree from the University of Dayton. She received the Macintosh Scholarship her senior year of high school and received a full ride to University of Dayton.
To the University of Dayton. Absolutely.
And you two have known each other for a while, and we want to talk about your journey, because it's I think a magical journey.
I would say that.
It's real cute. It's a cute journey.
So, Lori, tell us, I'll start with you. Tell us how you guys decided to start in kind of a relationship.
Sure. Back about 12 years ago, I was asked to be part of a mentoring program called College Promise. And we went through training. I agreed, of course. Went through training, and then that summer, after ShayLynn's 8th grade year, I was connected with ShayLynn, and we were a part of a dinner, and that's where we met face to face. And then part of the agreement with the mentoring program that we were a part of was to meet every week at ShayLynn's school and just talk about how things were going. ShayLynn had to agree to in order to be eligible for a scholarship through the College Promise program, she had to agree to some rules, and I'll let her explain those. But we quickly forged a friendship, unlikely friendship, but now I can't imagine not knowing her. So,
the College Promise program.
Yes.
8th grade. You were 8th grade. Tell me, you remember that day?
Oh, I just told her the whole story. It's so funny. It is so funny how it happened. So I was in my 8th grade social studies teacher's classroom. It's funny because now I teach 8th grade social studies at the same school. But Miss Parks Lori wasn't there, but they came, they represented to the school, each class. They basically were like, hey, here's this really cool opportunity. You know, they shell it out to a couple students, hand it to you and tell you to take it home. And they handed it to me, and I was like, man, who want to go to Sinclair? Like, I don't really want to go to no stupid Sinclair. I don't want to fill out this scholarship. I don't want to do this. And my 8th grade social studies teacher and the college counselor at our school was like, first of all, you're going to do it just because you think you're not going to do it. Second of all, I'm going to make sure your mother gets this in her hand if I have to take it to her today. And so that's how it happened. I filled it out, and they were like, and now we're going to take it home to your mom. My mom was like, oh, you don't have an option. And my mom was like, I got in trouble and everything. She was like, I don't know why she opened her mouth. Like she had an option anyway, especially when it comes to scholarship. Got a lot in trouble. My mom made me fill out the scholarship, and I was kind of like, nobody want to do this. I don't want to do this. I want to go to Sinclair. And she was just like, first of all, you don't know anything. That's your problem. You need to be quiet sometimes. This is not just simply for Sinclair. This is a huge opportunity, and I cannot believe you almost missed out on it because of your big old mouth. And I was at home like, I still don't want to go to Sinclair, so I could have missed out on it. And then eventually I did meet Lori and stuff, so things got a little smoother. But that's definitely how it all started, me complaining about how I wasn't going to fill out an opportunity to be granted a good education. 8th grade, very immature.
8th grade. And Lori, you kind of, did you expect, what did you expect? What did you expect?
I didn't know what to expect. I had just been given ShayLynn's name and homeschool, and that was it. And at the dinner that we went to at Sinclair, ShayLynn was there and with her mom and her little sister. And they were real quiet, and I was probably really quiet also. And then once we started getting into our weekly meetings, it was just like all of the things that we were afraid to maybe say to someone else of color or, you know, a white woman from the suburbs. We just had those conversations. And, you know, I had gone through some really difficult times during that time. Mm-hmm. ShayLynn had gone through some really difficult times, but we kind of would always talk to each other and be there for each other. And it was a great, great beginning of a long-term relationship.
So ShayLynn, how was your honeymoon phase when it comes to this relationship?
Honeymoon phase. That's a funny way to put it, because I would say we're still in the honeymoon. That's funny. 10 years later, still honeymooning. Like she said at the dinner, we were really quiet. And by the time we came to the dinner, like, I was excited about this opportunity because I had learned more. My mom was right. I was talking too dang on much. So I'm excited, like, wow, this is an opportunity for me to get a great education, and I get paired with this person. Like, cool. This is great. I'll get to go to school and tell them how I'm better than them even more. I love this. And then we started meeting, and it was really cool because I was having harder conversations that maybe I wanted to have with my teachers at the time, because those are the most trusted adults in my life. In 8th grade, those are the people I saw every day, my teachers. But you can't always ask them those hard, tough racial questions. Sometimes there really is no time to do that. So to be able to do that as an 8th grader with an adult that I have been told is, you know, very responsible, mature, knows her things, and she's in the community, I was very excited to be able to do that with her. And then, like, being a kid, it's so funny now because I just, as a kid, I didn't appreciate it this much. Like, now I'm talking about it. But as a kid, it was kind of just cool to have another adult think you're cool.
That's great.
That's really what it was for me in 8th grade. Like, well, here's this other adult that I have outside of school who's rooting for me for whatever reason. I don't know why this random white woman is rooting for me, but she is. So I got somebody on my team, and I think I'm down on her team, and she seems to be really pouring into me. She really did show up every week. Every week it was like a new little different topic. We would eat, and then we would talk about, like, classes, and I would tell her why my grades had me stressed out and why I thought I was going to drop out of school. And she would tell me, first of all, your grades are fine. You're not dropping out of school.
Right.
And then, like, you know, over the years, those conversations, they just get better and better. I feel like I'm not doing it justice explaining our honeymoon phase.
Well, tell me, you know, an older white woman.
That's what it was to me.
African-American young lady. What was, did you have some trepidation? Definitely. Did you have some kind of stereotypes of what? Tell me about those.
I definitely walked into it with a lot of bias. I will tell you head on, like, this is an older white woman. And to me, it really was like, what does she want with my life? How can she use me to make her better? And I wasn't interested. I was just like, how
can she use
that's
you to make you better?
Like, in my 8th grade, up to that point, that is how I experienced or had experienced and learned about white people. Like, they just kind of use you. You're a little girl of color. You're in an urban school. They're going to get what they can and leave you.
Oh, my.
After they get whatever they need, they'll go on and move on. Teachers do it, too, every day, right? Like, they go to school and then work in urban schools long enough to get their loans forgiven, and they leave. So that was kind of my expectation. Like, okay, it's an older white woman. I got the scholarship, so she kind of going to be there. We'll see. And then I was kind of even nervous, like, what is she expecting of me? Does she expect me to be some girl that I'm not? Because in 8th grade, while I would say I was very articulate, very strong leadership skills, very social, I just didn't know if it was like, what am I going to do or say for this white woman that's going to make her want to stick around any more than she need to? And it was just weird. Like, I don't know. I'm in the 8th grade, and I'll be honest, until I got to DECA, I did not have that many white teachers. I went to a Montessori school, and they were all black and brown. Then I went to a Catholic school for a year, and 2 out of the 4 of my teachers were black. So to come to DECA and it be all white people, and then get a mentor that was a white woman, I was just like, oh no.
And Lori, what about you? Did you have some internal thoughts about ShayLynn?
I'm sure I did, and my main goal was just to get her to finish school. Mm-hmm. I felt like, and that was part of my preconceived notion, is that she would drop out.
Oh my!
And I didn't know if she would trust me, if she would want to tell me what I want to hear, and it wasn't like that at all. We had really hard conversations. I experienced, through ShayLynn's discussion, just things that she had gone through and living in a world that I didn't ever know about. Mm. And ShayLynn showed me so many things, what that looked like and what that looked like to her as a little girl growing up as a little African-American girl. And so I appreciated that honesty. And I think that was the part of the relationship that really took it to the next level, because she shared so much with me. I shared with her also. So it wasn't what I was doing for ShayLynn. Mm-hmm. We were doing things together and listening. Mm-hmm. Yes.
How about that? And what did you discover about yourself
I discovered that I had my own biases about things, that my own ideas that I thought that maybe a girl from an African-American little girl would have, would be on my idea of it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that. And I got to know her as her, and I hope she got to know me as me. And that was really, really important for our longevity, I think.
I think so too.
And ShayLynn, what has surprised you about your relationship with Lori over these years? And what did you learn about yourself and going forward and now becoming an adult?
Becoming an adult. I tell the kids every day I'm still not grown. That's so funny. But what did I learn about myself? I'll take that first. First of all, I learned that I was able to adapt, and I always knew that. Second of all, I learned that I can make people and people with people, and that was a really cool opportunity to have with her, especially because I had all these preconceived notions and biases. It was like, all right, despite what you think, can you still get this woman to people with you like you need her to? Because that's always my goal and idea. I got a network. At the end of the day, I'm here to meet some people. Hopefully they touch hands with some people that I need later. So as an 8th grader, it was just like, all right, despite your preconceived notions, can you do it? And I did. We clicked. And then 2, it was like, 1, I learned, I don't know how to phrase it. Let me think about it for a second. I learned more about how my preconceived notions affect how I see the world than I did anything about myself. And I guess that is myself. But just like that lesson in the 8th grade was a strong lesson for me, because it was just like, you had all these things and this wall built up for this woman. Look at her, not trying to do nothing but help you, be around, kick it with you, spend some time with you. So it was really good for me as an 8th grader / 9th grader to come into that blank wall with my biases and my notions and be like, you were wrong. So it was really cool for me, especially seeing as how I ended up at UD, majority white people. Like, I needed that way sooner. So for me, that was a really big learning moment. And then the other question you asked, I won't act like I remember.
So this has built your character over time. Mm-hmm. And was there a moment in time that you had a breakthrough about just life? And people and people that are different than you?
I'd say my breakthrough was simple. It was just like, people are people, really. And it really comes down to that. Like, people go home and they go home to their stuff, whatever their stuff is. And it's funny to hear myself say that out loud, because being a teacher last year, that's the note. Like, I'm not here to teach you history. I'm here to teach you how to be an emotional thinker, involved in your community, and that people are people. These people go home with stuff. These people you talk about in your classroom, these are people. Mm-hmm. They have stuff at home. And so it's funny to hear myself say that, because that's probably what I taught Like if you go back to my review from like that was interview. Miss Hespeth didn't play about bullying. People are people and emotional intelligence. So it's funny that some of the same things that rerouted my little 8th grade, 9th grade brain are some of the same things I teach to my 8th grade, soon to be 9th grade students.
Now, Think Tank talks about a lot about building social capital. And in other words, expanding your network of relationships in ways that will provide support and open up opportunities. What has building social capital meant in your lives? Did ShayLynn open up social capital in ways that you never thought it could, in other networks that opened up for you, Lori?
Absolutely. ShayLynn absolutely did that. But even more so, it wasn't ever a goal of mine. I didn't think about that. As ShayLynn and I've talked a lot of times, she was asked to be a part of a group that the former governor Taft was doing with DECA. And she knows about connecting herself and connecting other people's using her social capital. And I've always been told that I use my social capital and connections, and that was something that we both really did. Yes, it was together.
Yeah,
yes,
it was like a team thing because we were already socialites. So now we're socialites together.
Yes,
Network
yes.
the whole crowd.
Right. And so people all the time, if something would come up about DECA, or I talked to Judy Hennessy, the former superintendent. She was like, oh my gosh, you're with ShayLynn. You two are the perfect people to be together. And just mentioning ShayLynn's name, people knew her. Dr. Spina from the University of Dayton knows ShayLynn, has had her to his house, and thinks she's great. And other people at UD that I connect with know ShayLynn. And great. She definitely has used her. I'm speaking for you, so you can say it.
So what does this mean for our moment in our country today?
Social capital?
Social capital, and also breaking down these barriers and walls that keep us separate. Any thoughts around the magic that you experienced in relationship? It seems like we just need a whole lot more of that. ShayLynn, what are your thoughts around that?
I'm gonna always say the same thing I teach my very young 8th graders. It has a lot to do with education and a lot to do with your mind. Open your mind and open a book, and we can all sit down at a table a little more easily. I was able to sit down and open a book with her based off education. Like, education changes lives. Get educated. The more educated, the more you read, the more conversations you can have, the more your lips will run a river because you know what you're saying, you know what's going on. So read a book and then open your mind and heart and sit down at a table with somebody that you don't know or you don't care to know. Even that, more specific, sit down with somebody you don't care to know. That's when magic really happens. And you find out like, oh, dang, I really need to know you specifically. In order for me to get this whole life right, I needed to know you. And sometimes it's sitting down at a table and talking. And what's crazy is we were able to do that. I was a child. So it's like, in the state of America, these are all adults having these issues. I was a child. If I was a child and could figure out how to break down my biases as a 9th grade-year-old black girl from the urban, suburban, whatever, I think grown adults who are educated and well-versed should be able to do the same thing. And all it takes is reading. More than whatever you're used. If you're used to reading Fox News, you got to read something else. If you're used to reading MSNBC, read something else. So that the people that disagree with you, you can really sit down and respectfully talk about it. Not argue or debate. Respectfully talk. Like human, like we are supposed to talk to each other. Talk about it. And then you can sit down and social capital it up next to Lori Sims Park doing a think tank.
Right.
That's the power in social capital, is the ability to sit down at a table then and break bread from that. Where else can we go with this? What else can we do?
Yes, and I think something that ShayLynn was willing to do was open up and to accept that. You know, that's another thing. Have the conversation, educate yourself, but also just be willing to look at, each other for who we were and accept that. And it was so much easier because she just wanted to have another adult in her life.
That's all I wanted.
She did. And I would never have known that the first time, maybe the second time. But as we got deeper, she wanted to have that
social capital. That's exactly what I was after.
Yes.
That's great.
In a good word, social capital.
And she
was
would
like,
ask
I
me
want more adults to connect me with even more adults that can make problems and issues change and go away when I'm an adult. That was the whole goal.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And so you and it started out leaning into your uncomfortable zones and leaning into something that you might not have thought you would want to do, and you push through.
Leaning and listening.
The power of leaning in to things that are uncomfortable can lend great blessings. And you guys are a blessing. You guys are a blessing to each other. You guys are a blessing to this community and this country, because this is what it's all about. In the moment in our country today is breaking through that those lines that appear to divide us, but at the end of the day, like ShayLynn, you said we're all people, and we all have the same made in the image of God. And
we all got to go home with our things.
Yeah, right. And just trying to figure it out.
Well, this has been a wonderful podcast, and I want to thank you, ShayLynn, and Lori for coming out and sharing this story.
Thank you.
And this story of celebration. Thank you.
We love to tell the story.
Hey, I'll tell anybody.
This has been the Rethink Community Podcast, brought to you by Think Tank, Inc., with music by Elijah Hamilton. Don't forget to subscribe to hear upcoming episodes featuring the stories of other courageous individuals we think you should know. And if you are part of an organization that would like to be better equipped to serve people in poverty, be sure to check out the resources we offer, including the Cost of Poverty Experience, or COPE, at thinktank-inc.org/COPE. Join the hundreds of businesses, schools, colleges, churches, and healthcare providers that have used the Cost of Poverty Experience, along with our other suite of tools and coaching to find new ways of thinking and responding to poverty.